How I became a Soulslike boy. I had a strange journey to becoming ready to play Souls-like games. Being an avid YouTube watcher, especially watcher of early video game documentaries, I was aware of Souls games, their popularity, their meaning to players, long before I actually played them myself. I bought a PSP in 2010 at the announcement of Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, releasing that summer. I played God Eater, which had just released, as something to fill the time whilst I awaited Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep. Erstwhile, Dark Souls fans began experiencing Dark Souls for the first time, and I safely ignored it from within the busy lifestyle of a college freshman. You see, for the longest time, I was afraid of playing hard games. I was afraid of losing in general. When I played RPGs as a kid, I often looked up cheat codes immediately because I didn't want to lose. The prime example being Ys, the Ark of Nepishtim. Having looked up how to enter the cheat room and give myself ultimate power immediately, I beat Ys, Ark of Nepishtim in a single blockbuster rental. And remember nearly nothing about what that game actually was. I still, to this day, have never beaten Baiten Kaitos Wings of Eternal Darkness because I didn't level up. I did not get good enough to beat the boss fight at the start of Disc 2. My save file could not revert to Disc 1, and thus the trauma of a child being stuck between Disc 1 and Disc 2 has always stayed with me. It wasn't until I saw how my big brother was so afraid of losing to his little brother in Soul Calibur 2 that he didn't let me play for an entire month after he got the game, only to lose immediately to me on our first match. Because I chose Kilik and just spammed attack buttons over and over, did I start to get over this fear. That led me to starting the video game club in high school, where our most common activity was playing pickup matches in Soul Calibur 3. I mained Zasalamel and Raphael, and my club rival mained Mitsurugi. We were the top players in the highly competitive environment of a Midwestern suburban high school, whose most popular band in the yearbook was consistently My Chemical Romance. We had a 2-1 win-loss ratio in my favor. Thus, while having experienced more failure as a result of fighting games, I had become even more afraid of failure. More afraid of no longer being the best gamer within my circle of people who knew I played video games. Then I got to college and no one played Soul Calibur. Everyone played Smash Bros. And Marvel vs. Capcom 3 and rarely a BlazBlue. So I didn't play those games against them. One time, we played rival schools and no one else knew how to dodge attacks on the Z-axis. So I was able to be the best gamer for exactly 1 hour on one night before their 2D fighting game sensibilities gave them the upper hand, even despite the existence of a Z-axis. Only one other night like that existed in my 4 years of college, after my friend Tyrone introduced me to Catherine. He called it the hardest game that has ever been released. I then played through the entire game, saw there was a 2-player competitive mode, and immediately became afraid of losing. So I practiced for hours to be the best block climber in all of the two of us. My sheep didn't lose a single climb, not one. While my friends played fighting games, I, erstwhile, got busy studying the God Eater, which got me accustomed to the idea of fighting a really big monster in a video game. I would play other big monster games like Tokiden Kiwami and Freedom Wars. I never beat Freedom Wars. I just got bored with it. Yet, it is the subject of one of my first ever YouTube videos. I dare you to watch that old video. I bet you won't, cowards. Bloodborne came out in March of 2015. I was living in downtown Los Angeles, having my parents cover my rent, unable to find work anywhere except the Cheesecake Factory in Beverly Hills. This did not cover rent. I couldn't afford a combo meal at Jack in the Box. The discount prices for Cheesecake Factory employee meals were still too expensive. I ate the complimentary bowl of soup and baguette at the employee lunch table out back next to the dumpster. I learned to associate the smell of a dumpster with food and would, for years, get hungry whenever I smelled a trash-filled dumpster. I once cried while eating a chicken sandwich combo meal from Jack in the Box because the Cheesecake Factory restaurant ran out of soup from feeding customers. I couldn't afford that combo meal because I bought an extra sandwich for a homeless person the last time I was there, thinking I would have a free bowl of soup available to me that week. At this time, I was 2 months away from the end of my lease, 2 months away from moving back to Nebraska. I had lost to Los Angeles. At this time, I started watching the Two Best Friends Play channel play Bloodborne. At this time, I moved back home and started a part-time job at the GameStop near my old high school. I watched the Two Best Friends complete their playthrough of Bloodborne. A while later, I watched them play the Old Hunters DLC, using some saved-up money, the store discount, and asking my parents to pay for half of it. I bought a PlayStation 4 bundled with Bloodborne. It felt like I had to beat Bloodborne for making up for losing at life. I could not beat Vicar Amelia, and I gave up beating Bloodborne. Dark Souls 3 was announced. I pre-ordered Dark Souls 3. I beat Pontiff Sullivan on my first try. I beat the Soul of Cinder, and only then did I allow myself to put the pre-order bonus bonfire keychain on my keyring. It broke this year a few months ago. I went back to Bloodborne. I learned to value the high-risk, high-reward playstyle of that game. I used a Chikage blood build. I won Bloodborne. This marked a turning point in my life. I was no longer afraid of losing. I had embraced that I would lose at a lot of things. I started to only care about trying very hard. I went to Pepperdine Law School. I dropped out after 1 semester. I worked 2 part-time jobs and Uber and Lyft on top of making YouTube videos. I dropped those jobs in favor of driving rideshare full-time. I paid for my own apartment for an entire year. YouTube demonetized my YouTube channel. I moved to Florida to help my mother while she prepared for 2 back and neck surgeries. I met my wife the next month. The pandemic happened, my work life was thrown into chaos, and I bounced around various part-time jobs. I found better pay working Uber Eats. I moved in with my wife. I played all of Elden Ring, and I started my current job working HR support for a nonprofit that helps children and adults on the autism spectrum. We have now purchased our first house together. My life has only improved over the past 7 years. Admittedly, I have lost a lot as well, but it is a net gain overall. And the turning point for all of these changes were Souls games teaching me to accept failure as an inevitability, and instead care only about continuing to try throughout the struggle. Stay true.